All right, today is review day. Don't forget tomorrow is your test, so make sure you're studying well and make sure you reach out to your teachers if you have any questions. Don't forget your builders are due Friday, but I wouldn't worry about that tonight. I'd probably take care of that after the test tomorrow if you haven't done them yet. So let's take a look at your review here. Number one, fill in the blanks. So if the expression below is equivalent to the expression, here we are multiplying by the reciprocal, so we're going to flip 1/10 to be 10 over 1, or 7 times 10. One of those answers should be the correct answer there. Easy problem there. Just make sure you know how to multiply by the reciprocal. Number two, what multiplication expression is equivalent to the division expression? Same thing here. We are multiplying by the reciprocal here. So we have 3/5. And then we're going to multiply by the reciprocal. So there you have it. 3/5 times 3/2. Take a look at number three. Which two expressions show how to find the number of times greater the length of the rectangle is than its width? So we are looking for how many times greater the length of the rectangle is than its width. So we're going to be multiplying 3/5 times 1/10. Two expressions show how to find the number of times greater the length of the rectangle is. Actually, we're going to divide here because we are looking for how much bigger it is. And if that's hard for you to understand, maybe come up with a different way to think of it. If I asked you, how many times greater are you than your sister or brother or other family member? Or maybe I asked you, how many times greater is your dad than you, or your mom than you, or somebody like that? You wouldn't multiply to see how much greater it is. You would have to divide to see how much greater your parents are than you. So in this case, we're going to be dividing, and then we're going to multiply by the reciprocal. So 3/5 divided by 1/10. So that looks good. Yes. That looks wrong. Yes. Here. And this one looks wrong as well. And then we're going to multiply by the reciprocal. So 3/5 times 10. So this one was wrong. Here we have it. So our answer is C. Our answer is C. Let's take a look at number 4. Madeline has 5 feet of embroidery thread for making bracelets. She needs 1/2 foot for each bracelet. How many bracelets can Madeline make? So just using a little logic here, we wouldn't multiply. We're not trying to figure out how, we would be dividing to figure out how many bracelets she can make. So we're going to be finding how many groups of 1/2 she can make with 5 feet. So 5 divided by 1/2. 5 divided by 1/2. Remember, when you're doing whole numbers, you want to write them over 1. So 5 over 1 divided by 1/2. And in order to solve that, we need to multiply by the reciprocal. So it's going to be 5 over 1 times 2 over 1. So we're multiplying by reciprocal, multiply across, and we get 10 bracelets. And that kind of makes sense. 1/2 of a foot. So 2 of those would equal 1. Or 2 bracelets would equal 1 foot. So 10 is our answer. 10 bracelets. Let's take a look at number 5 here. 3 children need to divide 4.5 bars of chocolate. How much chocolate will each child receive? And they helped us out there. They told us to divide. So we're doing 3 children divide 4.5. However, make sure you do this in the right order. If you were to not think about this, you most likely would do 3 divided by 4.5. But that wouldn't make sense because we're not dividing up the children into the chocolate. We're actually dividing the chocolate or the bars into the children. So we're trying to figure out how many will go into 3 different groups. So 4.5 divided by 3 in this case. So make sure you're using a little bit of logic so you can do this. It's going to be 4.5 divided by 3. We have a couple things we need to do to rewrite this. We need to first change this to a mixed number, and we're going to do this one over 1 here. So remember, you're going upwards, you multiply the bottom 2 and then add the top. So 4 times 2 plus 1, which is 9/2. And we're going to write this one over 1 to make this easier for us. Now, we're going to multiply by the reciprocal. So it's going to be 9/2. 9/2 times 1/3. 9 halves times 1/3. Then we multiply across, and we get 9 over 6. So 9 over 6. And then we simplify that by dividing by 3, which gives us 3 halves, or 1 and 1/2. And there you have it. And that makes sense. 1 1/2 plus 1 1/2 plus 1 1/2. Each child's going to get 1 1/2 bar. So if you did it the other way, your answer wouldn't make sense. You need to make sure that it makes sense when you're doing these problems. Let's take a look at number 6. Here, we multiply across. Now we have a negative times a positive, so we know our answer is going to be negative. So we get negative 15 over 90. And we're going to simplify that by dividing by 15. So negative 15 over 90 divided by 15, which is negative 1 over 6. And for those of you that are cross-simplifying, you could have done that right at the beginning by dividing 5 and 10 by 5, which gives you 1 and 2, and 9 and 3 by 3, which gives you those answers. But I'm not going to confuse you. Let's go ahead and just keep it like this. If you know how to do that, by all means do that. So negative 1/6 is your final answer. Make sure you're simplifying your answers. All right, for this one, we need to rewrite it. So we're going to do 5/6 divided by 13/6. And the way I got that is I multiplied 6 times 2, which is 12. I added 1, which is 13, and then I divided by 6. And don't forget, you should be pausing this and making sure you're understanding all these. Obviously, you're not going to be able to go at this pace unless we're getting them all right, and you're just kind of checking yours over. So 5/6 divided by 13/6. You're going to multiply by the reciprocal here. So we're going to keep the original 5/6 here, our divisor, and then we're going to change that to multiplication. We're going to flip this, multiply by the reciprocal, and then we're going to get 30 over 78. I'm going to divide both those by 6 to simplify it, which gives us 5 over 13. So our final answer is 5 over 13. 78 divided by 6 is 13. 30 divided by 6 is 5. So 5 over 13 is our final answer for number 7. Let's keep it going here. A restaurant had 4 cakes, each cut into tenths. So we're going to have, 40 pieces there for those 4 cakes. By noon, 4/5 of all the pieces were sold. How many pieces of cake were sold by noon? So they're cut into tenths. By noon, 4/5 of all the pieces were sold. So there's a couple ways you can do this one. You can do 4 cakes, which is 40 pieces, because they're cut into tenths, and then multiply that times 4/5, and that'll tell you how many were sold by noon. Or you can do 4 times 4/5, and then, well, I would go ahead and just do it in the tenths first. So 4 times 10, 4 over 1. So 4 times 1/10 tenths will give you, oh no, that's not, it's cut into tenths, which means we're dividing. We're actually dividing that. We're doing 4 divided by 1/10, because we're cutting it into tenths. So we're dividing that, which is equal to 4 times 10, which is equal to 40 pieces. So 40 pieces. So that's step 1. Figure out how many pieces there are. And then step 2 is to just multiply that by 4/5. 40 over 1 times 4/5. And that tells us how much is 4/5 of it, of all the pieces. Remember, you're multiplying that. Don't get that confused with something else. Remember, I know it's kind of confusing, but when you're finding something of something, you're multiplying. So 4/5 of is your multiplication keyword there. So 4/5 of all the pieces, and all the pieces is 40. So that's your all the pieces there, and that's what we're multiplying. So we have 160 over 5. And we're going to simplify this by dividing by 5. which gives us 32 over 1, which is equal to 32. So 32 pieces of cake were sold by noon. 32. It takes Aubrey 30 minutes to drive to her friend's house, which is 15 2/5 miles away. How many miles can Aubrey drive in 3 hours? So quite a bit going on there. I mean, you can use kind of common sense and logic here, and you can figure out how many 30-minute chunks can go into 3 hours. And if you can do that, then you can do it that way. So in this case, it'd be 6 of them. 30 plus 30 is 1 hour, and well, you have 3 more of those, so that would be 3 hours. So 6. And you can do 6 times 15 2/5 miles away and find your answer that way. But that way would probably be easier. Or you can change 30 minutes into hours, which would be 1/2 hour. And you can do 3 divided by 1/2. Or you can figure out how many miles she can drive in 1 hour. So you could do 15 2/5 times 2, and that'll give you how many there are in 1 hour, and then multiply that by 3. So there's a lot going on here. I'm going to do it times 6 because that's probably the most efficient way. So 30 minutes plus 30 minutes, so times 6 is equal to 30 hours. I'm sorry, 3 hours, excuse me. So 30 minutes times 6 is 3 hours. Or 3 divided by 30 minutes there. So now I would do that 6 here. So 6 is my big number. So 6 times, so 15 2/5 times 6. So 15 2/5 times 6 will give me my final answer. So I need to rewrite this. So it's going to be 5 times 15, which is 75, plus 2, so 77 fifths times 6 over 1, and 6 times 77, you can do this up here, so 77 times 6, 42 plus 4 is 46, so 462 over 5. Or we can divide that out and figure out how many whole that would be. So 462 divided by 5. So we get 9, 45, and 12, 2. And 2/5. So we have a remainder of 2. We don't need a decimal there. You can do a decimal, but it's not needed since we're doing whole numbers here. Or 92 and 2/5. Or if you change that to a decimal, it'd be 92.4. So hopefully you understand that. If not, make sure you reach out to your teacher so they can explain it to you again. A lot going on there. But basically you're multiplying 15 2/5 times 6 because they want to know how much you can drive in 3 hours, not 30 minutes, not in 1 hour, and so on. All right, let's take a look at number 10. Determine the area of a rectangle with a length of 2 4/5 feet and a width of 3 1/6 feet. Remember, when you're finding the area of a rectangle, you need to use the formula, and area is equal to length times width. So in this case, we're just multiplying 2 4/5 times 3 1/6. So area is equal to 2 4/5 times 3 1/6. And in order for us to multiply these, we need to change them to improper fractions. So 2 times 5, which is 10, plus 4 gives us 14. Our denominator stays the same. And then we have 3 times 6, which is 18, plus 1, 19. And 19 over 6 multiplies across, and you will get 19 times 14, which is 6, 3, 4, 7, 0, 9, 1. Sorry for holding you up here. We got 266. I'm sure you already have that. So 266 over 30. We need to simplify that. So we divide by looks like 2. Looks like 2 will work. Which gives us 133 over 15. And that's our final answer. We can't simplify any further than that. Or, let's see, 15 times 10 is 150. 15 times 9 would be 135. So it would be 8, 13, 15. And if you don't know how to do that in your head, just make sure you divide 133 divided by 15, and you will get, but I don't like changing to a mixed number. For those of you that did, though, the answer would be 8 and 13 15ths. That would be the area. And don't forget your unit, so feet squared. I almost forgot that. Feet squared. Feet squared. All right. Number 11. Joey rode his bike 4 3/4 times around the perimeter of a neighborhood. The perimeter of the neighborhood is 3 1/5 miles long. How far did he ride his bike? So Joey rode his bike 4 3/4 times around. So basically, we're just multiplying these two numbers. Since the perimeter is 3 1/5 miles long, he did it 4 3/4 times. Almost the exact same as the ones before. Change it to an improper fraction, and then multiply it out. So we're going to change these to improper fractions. 4 times 4 is 16, plus 3 is 19. 19 fourths. 3 times 5 is 15, plus 1 is 16 over 5. Multiply those out, and you would get 19 times 16. Let's figure that out real fast. Now, I would do it a different way, but that's fine. Depends on which teacher you have. So 4, 5, 11, 0, 9, 1. I sure hope I didn't make any mistakes on all these. I haven't checked them or anything. So if you catch a mistake, make sure you let your teacher know, please. And then it's over 20. Now we know these are not simplified because they're even. However, I know that you can divide both these by 4. So 304 divided by 4, but let's do 2, just to make it quicker. And then we'll do 2 again. So here we have 152 over 10. And then we can divide both these by 2. And so we get 76 over 5. 76 over 5, or if you change it to a mixed number, let's see. 5 times 10 is 50. So that would be 10, not 11. 12 would be 60. 14 would be 70. So 15. And we have 1 left over, so 15 1/5. And that would be how far he rode his bike. 15 1/5 miles. All right. We are halfway done. We've got a lot to review here. Add or subtract to find the solutions to numbers 13 through 16. Make sure you express it in the simplest form. So this one, we already have a common denominator, so it should be pretty quick, which is nice. But we need to rewrite it so that we're adding, not subtracting. So remember, you're going to add the opposite. And the opposite of negative 1/5 is positive 1/5. Now that we're adding, we look at the signs, and we have different signs. And since they're different, we're going to actually subtract these. But we know our answer is going to be negative because 4/5 has a greater absolute value. Negative 4/5 has a greater absolute value. So 4/5 minus 1/5. Remember, when you're subtracting, you need to have a common denominator, and then you just subtract the numerator. So here we have 3/5. And like I said, since negative 4/5 has a greater absolute value, our answer is going to be negative. So negative 3/5 is our final answer for that one. Let's look at 14. Now we have different denominators. We have the same sign, though, and we're adding. So we have the same sign. So our answer is going to be negative. So because they're both negative here, we're going to need to find a common denominator. And the common denominator is 6 and 9. Let's see, 6, 12, 18. So 18 it looks like. 9, 18. So 18 is our common denominator. So we're going to rewrite these to have a common denominator here. 4/9. I'm going to multiply, to get 18 as my common denominator, I'm going to multiply this one by 3 over 3. which gives me negative 15 over 6. So negative 15, I'm sorry, negative 15 over 18, plus a negative, let's multiply this one by 2 over 2, which gives us 8 over 18. And remember, this is already negative. Let me fix that. So 15 plus 8. Remember, we're adding these. They're the same sign, so we're adding these. So 23, we keep the denominator, keep it negative because they were both negative. If you need to do it as mixed number, there's 5 left over, so negative 1 and 5/18. So 23, negative 23 over 18 is your final answer. Let's look at number 15. Number 15, and don't forget, you need to be pausing these, making sure that you understand each one so that you're ready for your test. Here, our common denominator looks like it's going to be 60. So we need to find a common denominator before we do these. And we know that we're going to be subtracting them. So we know we're going to be subtracting them. So we got negative 7/12, and we got 7/10. Common denominator is 60. 12, 24, 36, 48, 60. And you obviously know your multiples of 10, so I'm not going to even write those out. But 10 times 6 is 60. You know those. So this one we're going to multiply by 5. And that gives us negative 35 over 60. This one we're going to multiply by 6. And that gives us 42 over 60. And remember, we're adding these. But since the signs are different, we're actually subtracting them. And then we're going to see which one has a greater absolute value. And in this case, it's 42 over 60. So my answer is going to be positive. So we're subtracting this. So 42 over 60 minus 35 over 60, which is equal to 7 over 60. And like I said, 42 over 60 is bigger than 35 over 60, which is positive. So my answer is going to stay positive. So 7 over 60 is my final answer for that one. 16 is a little trickier because we have 3 of them. However, the 8s are the same, so really we're just working with 8 and 11. And if it's not obvious to you, it'd be 88. 88 is the common denominator. So we're going to change these to be 88, all of them. So we got 7/8. Thankfully, we're just adding them all. So it shouldn't be too hard. We're adding all these. And we're changing it to be 88 on the bottom. So 77 there. This one I need to multiply by 8 over 8. So 24 over 88. And this one I need to multiply by 11, which gives me 11 over 88. And once again, we're adding all of these. So we're adding, the denominator stays the same. So 77 plus 24 plus 11, that gives us 112. So my final answer is going to be 112 over 88. Thankfully, they're all positive. That made it a little easier. Or it would be 24 over 88. Well, actually, I need to simplify this. So let's simplify this first. So 11 over 88, I'm sorry, 112 over 88. Let's divide it by 2, see where that takes us. Let's see, 56 over 44. I'm going to divide these two by 2 again, which gives us 28 over 22. And we can still go by 2 again, which gives us 14 over 11. Fine. So 14 over 11, or 1 and 3/11ths. Make sure you box your answers so you can see them. All right, number 17. Lots of work going on here. Got a lot going on. Number 17, 11 minus 6 and 3/8. Lots of ways you can do this, but we'll just do it as an improper fraction and change it back. Just depends on your level here. So we're going to find a common denominator. And obviously the denominator is going to be 8. But let's rewrite this. So we got 11 over 1 minus 48, 51. So 6 times 8 is 48 plus 3. So 51 over 8. And the common denominator here is going to be 8. So I'm going to rewrite this one to where it's 11, 1, so times 8. We got 88 over 8. And we're going to subtract the 51 over 8. And we don't have to do anything with that one. So we got 51 over 8. So 88 minus 51. Ran out of room here. So we got 27, 78, so 37. 37 over 8, or, see, 8 times 4 is 32. And then we have 5 left over, so 5 eighths. 4 and 5 eighths. And there you have that one. Hopefully you understand that. If you don't, just make sure you reach out to your teachers so they can help you. All right, number 18. We're almost there. Almost there. To make a greeting card, Bryce used 1/8 sheet of red paper, 3/8 sheet of green paper, and 7/8 sheet of white paper. How many sheets of paper did Bryce use? Thankfully, we can just add all these up. They're already in eighths. It's going to be a pretty easy one. Finally. So 1/8 plus 3/8 plus 7/8. So 1 plus 3 plus 7, which is 11/8, or 1 and 3/8, depending on what your teacher requires of you. So if they require you to do a mixed number, just make sure you divide these to figure that out. All right, I think we got 4 more. Cassandra cuts 5/16 inch off the top of a photo and 3/8 inch off the bottom. How much shorter is the total height of the photo now? Now this problem we've already done before, but it's good to go over it again because a lot of people missed it. So if we have a photo, we're cutting off 5/16 off the top, and we're cutting off 3/8 off the bottom. So we're kind of trying to figure out how much is left there. And the total would be, depending on what the denominator is. So the denominator here is going to be 16, but let's add them up to make sure. So 3/8 plus 5/16. Right now I'm just figuring out how much total inches did we cut off. So I've got 6 over 16, and the bottom one I have 5 over 16. We'll keep that the same. So it looks like when I add these, it equals 11 over 16 inches were cut off, which gives me, to figure out how much is left. So let's see, do we need to figure out how much is left? How much shorter is the total height of the photo now? Okay, so 11/16 inches were cut off, so it's 11/16 inches shorter. So 11/16 inches shorter there. So 11/16 inches. You don't have to go any farther than that. You don't need to figure out how much is left over, it's just asking how much shorter it is. So it's 11/16 inch shorter. So hopefully you read that question correctly and you didn't put 5/16. Karen wakes up at 6 o'clock a.m. It takes her 1 1/4 hours to shower, get dressed, and comb her hair. It takes her 1/2 hour to eat breakfast, brush her teeth, and make her bed. At what time will she be ready for school? All right. So let's take a look at this a little slower. It takes her 1 1/4 hours to shower, get dressed, and comb. It takes her another 1/2 hour to eat breakfast, brush her teeth, and make her bed. All right, so we need to figure out how many total hours it takes her to get ready, and then add those up to 6 o'clock and figure out what time she'll be ready. So 1 1/4 plus 1/2 will be my final answer. So let's change this to an improper fraction. 4 times 1 plus 1. So 5/4 plus 1/2 will be what we're looking for. Our common denominator should be pretty easy to tell. Common denominator is going to be 1/2. I'm sorry, 4. So 4. We're going to make these to where they equal 4. And that one's obvious. This is going to be times 2. 2/4. Remember, we're adding these. So our total is going to be 7/4. 7/4 hours. So you can do this a couple ways. You can do 7/4 times 60 minutes to figure out the time. And we'll do it that way just for fun here. But it's 1 3/4 hours. So 1 3/4 hours. So 7/4 times 60 minutes. So 420 over 4. So 420 divided by 4. So we're going to simplify that. And we get, well, let's see here. 400 divided by 4 is 100. 20 divided by 4 is 5. So 105. 105 minutes. So 105 minutes, which means it is 1 hour and, let's see, 60, so 45 minutes. 1 hour and 45 minutes. So 7:45. 1 hour and 45 minutes, so 7:45 a.m. is when she's ready. 105. Split that up into 60 minutes. 60 minutes plus 45 minutes. So it'd be 1 hour and 45 minutes. So 7:45 a.m. is when she's ready. Almost there. 2 more. The length of Casey's garden is 4 5/8 feet. Determine the width of Casey's garden if it is 2 7/8 feet shorter than the length. So we're subtracting here. It's shorter than it. So we're going to do 4 5/8 minus 2 7/8. So we need to change these to improper fractions first. Depending on your level here, I mean, there's a lot of things you can do here. You can do it like the builders and regroup, but we're going to just do it the fail-proof way. So 4 times 8, which is 32, plus 5. So 37/8. And then 2 times 8, which is 16. 23/8 there, plus 7. So 16 plus 7 is 23. We're going to subtract those. Thankfully, they have a common denominator there. 37 minus 23 is 14. So our final answer is 14/8. We're going to divide that by 2 to simplify. And we get 7/4 feet shorter. 7/4 feet or 1 3/4 feet. Not too hard, not too bad. Just make sure you know what you're doing. And last but certainly not least, we've got Peter buying a dozen blueberry muffins. He ate a third of them and then divided the remaining muffins equally among 4 friends. How much should Peter spend on each friend's muffins? So a dozen is 12. A dozen is 12. 12 times 1/3, because he ate a third of them, is equal to 12 divided by 3, which is equal to 4. So he ate 4 of them, which means there are 8 muffins left. 8 muffins left. And he has 4 friends. So each friend, so divided by his 4 friends. So each friend gets 2 muffins each. 2 muffins each. 2 of them. Now the blueberry, it says $15 per dozen. So that is 15 divided by 12. 15 divided by 12. Because we're trying to figure out how much he spends per muffin. So it would be 15 divided by 12. And y'all haven't learned unit rate. So let's take a look at this and see if we can explain it in a way that you guys have learned it so far. Let me take a look at it for a second. We have a dozen blueberry muffins. That would be $15. 1/3 of that would be $5. So $10 he spent on his remaining friends. 10 divided by 4. So 10 divided by 4. So let's go backwards. Let's do it with money. Let's do it with money. Okay? So remember, 1 dozen blueberry friends. I'm sorry, 1 dozen is $15. He ate 1/3 of them, so basically we're going to do 15 times 1/3, which is equal to 5. So $5 on himself, which gives us $10 for the remaining 4 friends. So divided by 4 will give me 10 divided by 4, so let's figure that out. 10 divided by 4. So $2.50 for each friend. And there you have it. Hopefully I didn't make any mistakes. If you find any, make sure you let your teacher know. And good luck studying for your test tomorrow. This is a really hard test, so make sure you're studying. And check the quizzes or any links that your teacher sends you to help you study for this even more.